Ryan, what do we love?
We love ghost stories.
And what do we have?
We have people with ghost stories.
So what are we going to do?
We're going to listen to those ghost stories.
Let's get spooky.
Let's get spooky.
Ed, do you have a scary story for us?
Oh, I have two scary stories for you.
Nice.
One is to confirm somebody that has already been on this show's scary story.
Oh, wow.
And my own scary story that is going to tickle a lot of your funny bones in terms of your favorite movies.
You're talking to me, though, right?
I'm talking to Matt. Yeah.
My funny bones are going to get tickled.
I can't wait.
Yeah. So the first one is a couple of weeks ago, you had Chris Lawfren on. Former IA tech director. Well, I'm the guy that replaced him, right? He left to go do other things, and I'm the guy that replaced him.
Well, he's not going to stay in a haunted tech booth, Ed.
No, he's not. He's not going to stay in a haunted tech booth. And that was the thing, is like, that was what watching his episode made me want to reach out, because it wasn't even the story I was thinking of when I started watching these ghost stories. And we'll get to that one. But he started talking about it, and I'm like, oh my God, at least I'm not the only one.
I have a quick question. So
sure.
You're telling me, because I just want to make sure I get this straight, that he did not reveal any of this to you when hiring you for the position that would be in the small haunted tech booth.
No, not at all. Also, it's kind of two parts, because they're not really a story, but two little small events. And the second one was corroborated by the owner and was just like, oh yeah, you didn't know about that? And it was just like, oh, that would have been nice to know. But the first one was we used like a MacBook, like an iMac, to basically run all of the sounds, like any sort of sound effects and, music cues, bumps and stuff inside the show. We used an iMac to make that happen. I don't know exactly what happened, but I get a phone call the night of, or maybe the next day, that something happened and the computer exploded. Something happened, it like short-circuited and started smoking, but basically the computer it didn't play sound anymore. You just couldn't get sound out of that computer. It fried the sound card. So because we needed it for the show, I had to, the next day, go down into the theater during the day by myself and just sit in the tech booth and transfer all of the information from one iMac to the new iMac.
Wow.
Real simple, real easy, not spooky at all. But I'm in that theater by myself, alone. And I've sat in that booth hundreds and thousands of times, right? I've done countless shows. Matt screamed at me from the stage countless times.
I was just wondering, I was like, I wonder if he'll bring up that often when he's in that room, I'm yelling at him from the stage in front of 200 people.
So the ghost wasn't actually like in the tech booth with me, because they're just afraid that Matt's going to come out of nowhere and just start screaming at me. So they stay clear of that. But the view from the tech booth is diagonally into the back corner of the theater, where there's an emergency exit. So there's this emergency exit sign and the orange glow that comes out of it. Now, I've done countless amounts of shows where I've had to make sure that I can see somebody across the stage. And so I've figured out what silhouettes look like. And so now I'm sitting in the tech booth and I just feel somebody staring at me, and I know I'm there alone, because the box office agent hasn't come in. He's not going to come in for another 2 hours at that point, because I'm there at 10. He's not getting in there till 1 at the earliest. And so I can just feel somebody staring at me, and it's getting really unsettling. So I put on headphones, try to just listen to my own music, try to just kind of drown it out, and I can just feel it. And I look over through the darkness to the back corner, and I can just see the silhouette of a person from the glow of the exit sign. And I turn on every single light I can turn on, and nobody's there. And I can just feel somebody staring at me. And so I proceeded to get all of the progress bars I could going, and I left.
Yeah.
And I came back when the box office agent was there, and I walk in, and the box office agent at the time looks at me, and he's just like, "Hey, so I came down here and all the lights were on." I was like, "Yeah, I need to get the hell out of here real quick." And then similarly, I had to go down there again after this experience, and this was like maybe like months later, and the front room of Improv Asylum, the main entrance to the theater, are two glass doors with the Improv Asylum triangle logo plastered across it.
Mhm.
And I could have sworn to you out of the corner of my eye that some sort of Victorian woman was standing behind the glass as I walked by out of the corner of my eye. And it was unsettling. I got in, got out, finished what I was doing. And then maybe like 3 weeks later, we might have been doing the Halloween show, but the owner Norm was talking, and he was just like, "Oh yeah, when this theater first opened, there was like like an old Victorian girl that I thought was in the audience, and there's this old Victorian girl that just haunts this theater." And I was like, "Oh well, again, that would have been nice to know
Yeah.
before
Yeah.
before I was down here by myself." So those are the two Improv Asylum related stories.
I like though that you, first of all, tech people, anybody working a job, much braver than anyone else, because you still
Oh.
like, you're like, I got progress bars, then I hightailed it. Like you still did your job. You're like, you're like, well, first I put on headphones. I was like, I got to get this done, because if I don't, Catanzano's going to come down here for the show. He's going to
Yeah.
flip out if these sound cues don't work.
Right.
And that's true and fair.
Right.
But also I'm a little peeved because, like, you know what, Chris, Norm, somebody should have told you before you got hired. But
Yeah.
like, you then knew and let me come down there and put on a suit to do a show, and you didn't tell my ass either. So no one's telling anybody anything.
Oh no. Well, look, for a medium such as improv, which is 100% based on communication, we are all terrible at it. We are all terrible at it, because that's all that boils down to. Is like, look, here's the thing. I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to get in. I'm going to get out. But yeah, look, I needed to get that done because, as you know, the entire time that I'm in that booth, I'm just working on a painting. And so I just needed to finish the painting, but I needed to do that during the show, right? And so this needed to be done before I could get to the show.
Yeah.
So
imagine sitting in a small room for 7 hours, Gall, and this poor guy just works for 7 hours straight. And at the end of it, I'm like, so what were you doing in there? Just painting a picture? Like just the meanest.
Painting.
Just this.
Now, I assume you have another story to tell us, and my question for you is like, how is this something that you've always kind of believed in? Have you always believed in ghosts? Have you always thought like they're out there? So, and the only reason I ask is because I try to gauge whether people are open to this stuff or not. It's sort of a side project for me to try to figure out like where these things are coming from for people.
Separate
you're
thesis
writing a
paper.
thesis.
Yeah,
I'm writing a thesis. I'm getting my doctorate, so you guys got to help me out.
Oh my God, I'm getting nothing out of this. You're getting a doctorate?
You got a great, horrible drink.
Yeah. Christ.
I do. I have kind of always believed in it. You know, it's weird because I wouldn't say that I'm like a religious person, but it's always, it's like that weird thing where it's like, it's comforting to believe in something kind of like bigger than yourself.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And that's kind of what it boils down to. And then weird things have just kind of like popped up, right? There was a time like after my grandfather passed away where he died, and he passed away of cancer, and everybody in the family had the same dream the same night. It was like he loved the Cape, like going down the Cape, and he loved sailing. And maybe it might have been a couple of nights after he passed away, but it was like immediately after he passed away, and everybody in the family had the exact same dream of them walking up to him, kind of like the best way I could describe it is the scene at the end of Shawshank Redemption. Like, you know what I mean? Like he's working on a boat, and we walked up to him, and I was the only one there, but then my mom said she had the exact same dream. My dad, my aunts, like everybody. Wow. And we just talked to him, and the whole thing is like, hey, everything's going to be okay. Everything's fine. And then he gets in the boat and he pushes out to the ocean. Right. And it's fine if like I had that dream or like, something, but everybody had the exact same dream. So there's stuff like that. And then when I was telling my dad I was going to do this show, I was like, oh, like I was going to do this show. He's like, oh, our house growing up was haunted. I'm convinced of it. And he was like, you know how like kids say like weird things that it's like, oh, there's no way that you should know that information or be able to say that thing. Like, have you ever seen those types of videos?
The darndest and spookiest thing.
Yeah. And
the spookiest things.
So then he proceeds to tell me a story that I had never heard of nor remember, about how in high school, when he was in high school, he had a friend who died in a drunk driving accident, and he had a picture of him. And he had a picture of him at his workbench down in the basement. And I was a very young child. He didn't give me an age, but a young child. And I find this picture. Then I start talking to my dad, and he didn't give me specifics, but he started telling me about how I started reciting information, including the man's name, without knowing anything about this. Like, this wasn't like a family friend that I knew forever that had passed away. It was my dad's best friend in high school that had passed away.
Wow.
And so like stuff like that is always kind of like popped up. And then
both of those are a lot, by the way. Like, that's like, that in the dream, the Shawshank dream, you might have also uncovered something. Maybe life is a prison.
Yeah, maybe.
Hey, easy, man.
Maybe life
maybe
is just a Shawshank, Gall.
Hey,
and when we're done, we go to the bank.
We're not
we
there
get on
yet.
our boat.
We're not there yet.
And we go.
Yeah, maybe.
No, life is just Cape Cod, is what I took from it.
No, life might be Shawshank, and when you die, you finally get out of Shawshank, man.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, you got to climb through that doo-doo pipe.
Yeah, you climb through the doo-doo pipe that is life.
Yeah, right. And that's it.
You find the money under the rocks.
Oh God. And so so yes, to answer your question, Ryan, I have always believed in this sort of thing.
Yeah. Don't think about it a lot, but like believe it. It's like, that's cool.
Yeah. There's always this thing that I've always wanted to do where like I've always wanted to like kick in the door of like a psychic. And like for the most part, I know that it's bullshit. But God, would I be so scared and intrigued if they were just like, Eddie, we've been waiting for you. You know what I mean?
You mean literally kicking the door of a medium's home?
Yes.
And they knew you were coming?
Yeah, and they knew I was coming.
I want that for you.
Because I always read that on the like in the Improv Asylum corporate office, there was 3 floors.
Yeah.
And the middle floor had
I lived up there.
yeah, right. The middle, I think we all have at some point.
Yeah.
The middle floor had that psychic.
Yep.
And so that is I always wanted to just unannounced go into that office, but I'd be so scared if they knew who I was.
I know. Did we lose Gall?
I think we lost Gall. Oh,
just lost him. Yeah,
no.
What can you do? Honestly, he might have not liked the life as a prison.
He might not have. Well, we shut him down with the he thought life was Cape Cod. So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Oh, we sure did. Oh, we got him back.
Sorry.
That's
okay.
I would have blamed Ed, but he's still here. That's an Ed tech problem right there, right?
Yeah,
like Ed.
This is the big one.
Yes.
So I take you in the Wayback Machine to the mid 2000s.
My favorite time, man.
Yeah. So sometime between 2003 and 2005, I can't remember which summer it was.
How many the used t-shirts were you wearing?
See, I never was into the used. But my friends were. So they each had one on. I didn't, but they each did.
Okay, just
so I'm from a small suburb outside of Boston, Massachusetts, Newton, Massachusetts. And it came to light that in the town over in Waltham, there was a abandoned mental hospital. And it was called Met State. And basically rumors started circulating around the school that this place was haunted and, classic high school rumors, right? And so I played sports, and so a lot of the older kids that had cars and stuff were talking about how they were going to go in and they were going to break in and like go check it out and all this other stuff. And I forget, for whatever reason it was, I couldn't go. Right, I just couldn't make it that day. But it was a good thing, because they basically got turned away by the cops. They all showed up to this place, and the cops were like, "What the hell are you kids doing? Get the hell out of here!"
Yeah.
So I basically was just like, all right. So then we didn't have cars. Like, I wasn't old enough to drive yet. And so I convinced basically the C team of my friends, because, my actual like close best friends were like, no, you're a crazy person and I'm not going to do that. So no. So I ended up getting like the C team together.
And I no longer feel bad about yelling at you, because you described the tears of your friends.
Well, you know exactly who the C team of your friends are. And so they basically agreed to do it. And we biked in the middle of the night to this abandoned mental hospital. And we just had little flashlights, and I forgot a flashlight. And so instead, we didn't really have sophisticated cell phones at this time, right? It was, nobody had an iPhone, because that didn't come out for another like 3 years. And so we didn't have flashlights on our phone, except for this prepaid cell phone that I had from Virgin Mobile that had a flashlight button. And that was Virgin Mobile.
Oh, Virgin Mobile.
Yeah.
Virgin
and it was like a
Mobile.
prepaid cell phone, and that was the only thing. And it just had this LED flashlight, and that was like basically like the only light we had. And so we roll up to this hill, and it was creepy to say the least, right? And so we crest over the hill, and there's just this building, and it's dilapidated brick. All of the windows are boarded up, and we go around back because we're looking for a door, right? To just try and get into this place. And we get in to the back area, and there's like a swimming pool, and it's full with dirt, and there's all kinds of like grass growing out of it. And it just looks unsettling, especially because we only have my Virgin Mobile flashlight and the moon. And so
thank you, Richard Branson.
Yeah, thank you, Richard Branson. If he only knew. And so then we find a door that has like some of the wood's like coming off, like somebody tried to get in. And so we kick down the rest of the door and we go in. And I don't know why this was the case, but it feels like whenever they close these places down, they just left everything. There was newspapers on the ground. There were gurneys and old wheelchairs and probably a ton of asbestos. And like, I remember going into one of the rooms. And there was just, a doll just like in the corner of the room. And it was
all psychiatric places, all like mental hospitals, when they're closed, they're not closed, they're abandoned. It's just
right.
Like people leave, like there's a fire, they run out, which is like so unsettling.
Right.
There's always a doll. There's always a doll, and there's always like a kit of weird utensils used to remove things from the human body.
And way down the hallway, just a wheelchair. Just a single wheelchair, middle of the hallway.
Yeah.
No one in it.
It's just sitting there, and it's just creepy.
And it's not near a door. Like, someone was in that. Where did they go?
Yeah, right. Where did they go? Did somebody pick them up? Did they walk out? But we basically wandered around this 2-story building until we found the basement. And like all good ideas, I'm like, let's go down to the basement. What, you know what I mean? Let's head down.
The C team is the bravest team that's ever existed. C team, SEAL team.
Sounds like you were part of the C team with these ideas.
Well, see, what ends up happening is I was basically like, guys, like, we're going down into the basement. And I had one kid that was just grabbing me by the arm, and he was like, no, we can't. I should have listened to him. To this day, I think about that moment, because we're standing at the top of the stairs, and he's grabbing my arm as tight as he possibly can. And he's like, no, like, we can't go down there. Like, don't go down there. We can't go down there. And I'm like, we've been all over the rest of the stuff. We have to go down into the basement. And he was just like, no. After some more words, we just go down to the basement. And we get there, and it's a tunnel to the rest of the facilities. And we start walking down, and I remember hearing the distinct sound of like the wheels of a gurney rolling. And then I have my Virgin Mobile flashlight, turn it on. There is a sea of darkness because this thing is shitty. It's terrible. And I see the gurney. And then I remember hearing, like it was right in my ear, the low rumbling of a person just saying, "Go." So we turned around and we sprinted the hell out of there, and we got on our bikes and we took off. And I went back there maybe like 10 years later because I heard that they turned them all into condos, and I just wanted to drive through the new like development. And I got such chills on like down my spine in the back of my neck because that building was still standing amongst all of the other like brand new luxury condos. And I was like, yeah, no, could never live here.
You did. Okay, let me ask you this. Did only you hear go and like, so you're the leader, you start to sprint so everybody sprints, or did what?
No,
like,
we all heard it. We all heard it, and we all just like we all heard it and didn't even talk. Like it wasn't one of those like, did you hear that? Let's get out of here. It was just like everybody heard it and we all just took off.
But
and
after the
you're
fact,
bouncing a light, like you're running, but in the dark.
Oh, we're running like, well, we also didn't get too far down the stairs.
Yeah.
Like it, maybe if we got to the bottom of the stairs, we probably took like 5 or 6 steps.
Yep.
So it wasn't like we were like wandering through and like had to get through a maze.
But still, the facility's dark in general. It's not like there's no.
Oh, it's pitch black. Yeah, we got a couple of glow sticks and a Virgin Mobile telephone. That
was there a consistency?
We lost Gall.
Did we though, or did
the ghost take him?
Did the ghost take him?
Yeah,
it's hard to know.
It is. It is hard to know.
Would the ghost freeze him with that position?
That's how the ring like worked, right?
That's true. That we have 7 days from seeing Gall frozen like this.
Yeah, or
until he climbs out of that actual image.
Yeah,
drags you back in. Spooky. Nothing. Honestly, your Wi-Fi is the spookiest thing. Wi-Fi not working is now.
Right.
That's the spookiest thing. But my question, Ed, is like when you guys all left, and you were like, "Oh my gosh, something just said go."
Yeah.
Was that something everybody else was like, "I heard it too"?
Yeah. So we sprinted out of there. We got on our bikes and took off. And I don't remember saying anything to anybody until we got to, there was this like Chinese buffet around the corner and in like this plaza, and it was like on the way home. And so we all pulled into that plaza and nobody said anything to each other until like we got there and like stopped, because we were just in a full sprint. And then finally one of the guys just looks and goes, "So we all heard that, right?" And it was just like, yeah, man, like we totally heard that. And then, and then it turns into one of those situations where we sat there for like, an hour trying to figure out, logically processing like what that could possibly be. Like
I know it didn't happen, but I'm just picturing you having a full Chinese buffet.
Yeah.
But just silently.
Yeah, we went inside.
You guys went inside, you sat down, a waiter sat you. You ordered, you waited, and then like each got a fortune cookie. When you opened it, it said go.
Yeah, right.
Like, we should talk about this. We had to talk about this.
Oh, we gotta talk about this now. Yeah, but it was just like, and and then it's one of those classic things like,
damn.
We get to school the next day, and because at the end of the day, we were the ones, like at least at that night or that weekend or whatever, we were the ones that got there, right? Because the older kids, they tried to go, they got turned away by the cops, and we actually got in.
Yeah.
you know. And so when we went and we were just like, yeah, we got in, we were looking around, this is what happened. And then everybody, you know, they're like, oh, you're full of it. Like, you
Yeah.
know,
Like that building was torn down 40 years ago.
right. Like, what are you talking about? That
What?
building hasn't existed in 40 years.
Yeah, there's no basement in the Alamo. You're like,
You
no,
know?
we went downstairs.
You know, it was so funny. And it's like, you know, you hit those things on the front. There's a gas station before, and you know, we have all the bravado and piss and vinegar like going up to it. And before we get there, and we're like, they're like, oh, where are you kids off to? We're like, oh, we're going to the hospital. We're gonna break in. And it's like, oh, I wouldn't go up there. There's ghosts out there. It's like, oh,
I tried to go to that same place a bunch of times because I lived right by Waltham, and
yeah,
we were always turned away.
yeah, because there were two separate things. There were like two separate units. There was like the unit we broke into, and then like if you went like through the woods a little bit, there was like the main building and stuff.
Yeah.
Always
And-
a bad move though. Don't go
Yeah.
through the woods.
Yeah.
Never go through the woods to the main building.
Oh
this-
no, you
This crazy person's telling friends to go into the basement. Like, imagine going in there, you go in a bunch of rooms, you're like, we did it. And Ed's like, let's do the basement. It's
We
like,
gotta hit the
there's always one person that's
Yeah.
like, you know what we haven't checked? The old
Yeah.
attic.
basement.
right. Look, it's like I fully admit that when I was in high school, I was like the captain of the lacrosse team. I was basically an 80s high school movie villain. Like I fully acknowledge that. I try to think I'm a better person now, but you know, I fully acknowledge that. And
So the C squad of friends was actually just a bunch of nerds that you forced to go into this
Yeah, they were
place with
actually
you?
they were the
basically-
good guys. They were
Yeah,
the good
yeah. If anything in the movie situation of this, I force them all to go and then I die immediately and then it's their hero's journey.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like,
I look
yeah.
forward to writing that.
Like I fully admit that that's exactly what happens. I'm Chris Hemsworth that just I got this, getting on the motorbike and just jumping into the wall. Like I understand that like in this particular movie, that's my role. And I'm glad I got out alive.
Yeah, no, it's nice. That's good to hear.
You know?
God, that's so good.
That's good.
That's so
That's good
spooky.
stuff.
Yeah, it was brutal.
That's
Man.
so spooky. That's
Yeah.
spooky. I want to go back there.
Yeah. It also prepared me. Like I ended up a couple years ago being the first AD on a horror movie that shot in a completely different mental hospital. And that experience basically gave me the like, you know, so much bravado to like walk around this new mental hospital because it was just like, oh yeah, no problem. I've been to a real spooky hospital. So like, I can walk around this place, no problem.
And that's
Oh, yeah.
exactly what you want from an AD. Like the AD has to be the one that's like, listen, I've been to
Okay.
way more haunted places than this.
Yeah, right. Yeah, just do your lines. Let's go.
Just everybody meet me in the cellar.
We have
Yeah.
a schedule that we will keep. Trust me,
Yeah.
I've been to more haunted hospitals.
Yeah. Jamie, I don't care if you're in your underwear and you're being chased by a demonic goose. We're
Yeah.
getting out of here.
A demonic goose, which is
Yeah.
different than the business goose.
Yeah, it's different
Yes.
than a business goose.
Penguin, business goose.
Yeah.
A demonic goose is like what, a falcon? Or
Yeah.
I don't it's
A Canadian goose, probably.
yeah.
I'm sure I'll Photoshop something very poorly into this right here. But
Yeah,
Yeah. Hopefully it's right here. If this is the same frame.
Give me a
It'll be
spot.
right there.
Give me a spot to aim for.
Right there. Or up there. You can do it right there.
I might do it right there.
Oh, maybe you can do it in my hand.
I might have it come right behind you.
Oh, that'd be good. Out of the darkness.
If I can figure out how to work
You
with the
never know.
opacity.
Ooh,
Never know.
opacity.
Ed, thank you so much for coming
Yes,
on.
Ed, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
You're a hero.
Scare bones for that. Well, you know, I think there's pretty good scare bones. It was very Stranger Things for me, what he was doing. So I'm like
Kids on bikes, baby. Kids on bikes.
kids on bikes riding towards an abandoned mental hospital. I mean, come on, it doesn't matter if there's ghosts there or not.
Yeah,
There's enough there already for
Yeah.
me to be like, you got a great story.
that's my favorite subgenre of all time. Kids on bikes.
I wish, you know, because I imagine myself going back in that time. If I had heard go and we had all run, truthfully, and I think I would have tried to go back.
Wow.
well, not like necessarily that day or anything, but I'm
Yeah.
shocked. I'm surprised there wasn't. I was waiting for so the next week I went back and there wasn't. And I'm like, that's interesting. Like, because if I would have been talking to that or about that to every single person I knew and then said, like, who wants to go back? We'll see if it happens again.
Yeah.
That would have been my game, but
You don't learn lessons. That's your
no. Lessons are for learners.
thing. You are warned.
Lessons are for learners.
Learners are for lessons and lessons are for learners, my friend.
I've said it a million times.
You
And if I
have.
haven't said it a million times, I've never said it.
It's one or the other. I don't know. I think about the asylum, but then I also think of the other asylum, the improv asylum, and the idea of him. Anybody who still goes back to work, it's like just so interesting. You're like, well, and that's why I don't go there alone. But I mean, it's packed with people. I'm fine.
Yeah.
It's like,
Totally. Yeah.
it's a
I
lot.
don't know. I'm going to give his story 7.5 scare bones right here. Bink. And I hope that he has I guess I'll say this, and it's not going to be popular. I guess he should have the balls to go back there in the next 6 months and figure out what's going on there and see if he hears go again.
So he was an 80s bully in high school, and you're an 80s bully
And
now.
I'm a 2020s bully. Get your ass back there, Eddie McCabe.
You gave him 6 months to go back to the old abandoned asylum of his
Come on.
youth.
I'll go with you.
Oh,
I'll go with you.
that's another field trip for us.
That's right.
I'm gonna go 8 scare bones because of the two stories, the two together,
Yeah.
and the
Love
dream. The dream story really messed me up.
Dream and Cape Cod. I meant to ask him what part of Cape Cod. Not that it would matter, but I love Cape Cod.
It matters if it's
It does.
Dennis or Yarmouth.
Sandwich, Falmouth,
To see how many we can name.
East Sandwich Beach. That's where I grew up.
No way. On the beach in East Sandwich?
Well, I mean, I grew up going every summer. My grandmother lived on East Sandwich Beach. That's where we would summer.
We were Dennis people.
By the way, how entitled am I that I'm like, that's where we would summer?
Yeah.
I'm not. My
Yeah.
kids don't summer anywhere.
If you do go to that abandoned asylum, you will be murdered, but it's because of saying things like that.
Yeah, and I'll deserve it.
Yeah.
I'll deserve it.
Yeah.